Now after recently making a reel showing us making some homemade vegan sushi, I've decided to have a go at making it from start to finish, and for those of you who are asking for the recipe, here's how we're able to make it. So here's what you'll need guys, a razor sharp knife to do all the cutting, but before that you're obviously going to need some nori sheets which are made out of seaweed, your sushi rice along with all of your fillings guys, whatever you choose, more on that later, and last but certainly not least, a sushi rolling board. You can either get a traditional bamboo one or like me you can pick up a silicone one, and trust me, this makes a world of difference. Now to start with this time, rather than using a pre-cooked packet of sushi rice, we decided to actually try cooking the rice from scratch. Now it came in this sort of vacuum sealed pack which was pretty cool, but once you've pierced the actual packet it just falls out into tiny little rice grains. Now one thing in regards to making sushi guys, you've got to use a special type of rice. Now whatever you do, do not try to use your typical basmati or long grain rice. It just simply won't work, as the grains need to be able to stick together. Now this is probably because of all the gluten that's in this rice, I'm presuming, along with the starches. But as you can see here from this close-up, this rice is definitely different than the one we typically cook. They almost look like broken rice, and I was pretty skeptical to see whether or not they were going to be so much stickier than the normal rice. But before we could cook it, I simply had to rinse the rice to make sure that all of the starch was removed. We typically do this whenever we're about to cook rice anyway. Now once you've sort of swirled the rice around, you pour that water off and basically rinse and repeat. And once the water starts to get fairly clear guys, then you're good to go. Now you can cook this rice either in a rice cooker if you've got one. We haven't got a rice cooker, so we always cook our rice on the hob, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now I know for most people this might be quite tricky to actually cook rice from scratch. It does take a bit of practice. I typically just use a method which my wife taught me of simply sort of sticking my index finger in the pot up until around the first sort of joint above the rice, and then that seems to work. Now it's a good idea to add a bit of salt to this rice because it's going to make sure that it has a lot of flavor once you start to put it in your sushi. Now I'll just simply stick my index finger in, and as soon as I touch the rice, as long as the water is up to sort of the first joint, then we're good to go. So we basically get the rice boiling, and then once it starts to boil you reduce the heat and then let it steam. And just like that, we've got our rice ready guys. Now I cooked the entire packet, which basically means we're going to have a whole lot of rice. Now what you actually need for this recipe guys are these nori sheets. Now these sheets are really important. Without them, obviously you won't be having any sushi. Now the rice is pretty hot because we've just cooked it. Now it's a good idea to actually prep all your ingredients before you start cooking guys. I can't stress this enough. There's no point cooking your rice, getting some of your ingredients out and then realizing that you're going to actually need some more. So you can see that all our ingredients are prepped. Now when they mention that this rice is sticky rice, it is no joke. So my little technique for doing this guys is literally placing it on the mat, using the back of a spoon to actually then spread it out on to the nori sheet. I also have a fork just to clear off any excess that might be hanging around on the front of the spoon. And I find that the back of the spoon works really well. Now after that's done, it's time for us to start loading up. Now the good thing about sushi guys is the fact that you can put anything in there to your liking, whether it's vegetables or meat, you name it. Obviously my family and I are completely plant-based, and so all we're putting in here are vegetables guys. Now one of the most important thing when it comes to sushi rolling is the fact that you need something to actually roll the rolls together, and you can see me here using this green silicone pad which we bought off Amazon. Now you can actually get bamboo ones which are more traditional, but I just wanted to give this a go, so I just got something cheap and cheerful. And as you can see, just like that, first sushi is done. And it's so easy guys. It takes a bit of practice and you sort of get a knack for it. The next important thing that you're going to need is a razor sharp knife. If you can get a standard knife that is razor sharp, that's fantastic. But I found a little hack. I don't know if this is a hack or not, but it seems to work pretty well, we've got this serrated bread knife with really big chunky serrated teeth, and this thing is sharp, and I found that it actually cuts it pretty good. As you can see here on the cutting board, the rolls have to be really nice and tight, and then once that's done, you can then start slicing it into pieces. Now when it comes to actually getting your sushi rolls ready, guys, it's important that you make sure that the rice is pretty level. You can also leave a bit of a gap at the end of your sushi roll, and you'll probably see further on in the video why that is. Now you can see here why it's important to leave a bit of a gap. Now the area which had no rice at the tip was able to be folded over nicely without any rice bulging over. You can use a bit of water just to wet the end of that nori sheet, and then you can just smooth it over. But if you got too much rice to the end of your nori sheets, it will start to come out on the edges just like this. So that's a little bit of a tip if you want them to look really good. Also, a big no-no, as you can see me doing here, guys, if your sushi rolls are a certain shape once you've done rolling them, because obviously you need to practice getting them nice and round, they never come out 100% perfect. But what you should never do is actually squeeze your sushi rolls after you've cut them, because as you can see, it makes it all loose and the rice can fall out. Now here I'm experimenting with some different ingredients. These are some kale that we dehydrated, guys, which are so tasty by themselves, and we're simply making some sushi rolls with just kale and rice. And yeah, the sky's the limit. You can obviously have fish in there if you are that way inclined, but again, we're just putting vegetables in here, guys, and it's all to do with the soy sauce at the end, and whatever else you want to dip it in. We like to use some hot sauce, and yeah, that's it. So at this point you just simply need to rinse and repeat. Here I am again experimenting, this time with some sun-dried tomatoes in olive oil that we made at home from the tomatoes we grew in our garden. And again, simply once you got the technique of laying the rice, then it's simply about just getting your roll on, guys, and it just becomes almost second nature. And you can see me here really flexing now because I'm getting the hang of making them nice and round. They're getting more and more even. Look at this, guys. One of my best rolls yet. And the good thing about these sushi rolls are once you've made them, you can actually store them in the fridge for a day or two. There's no meat in there, which is fantastic. Now here I'm showing you that the knife actually gets quite messy because of all the rice when you're cutting it. So I find that just washing it off between cut, getting the knife nice and damp, actually allows you to cut through a lot cleaner without it sticking. I mean, look at this. Now I don't know if this is a good idea to use a knife like this to cut it through, but it works really, really well for me. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here you can see the residue from the sticky rice, and yeah, you can just keep going. You can get that wet again just to allow it not to stick too much to the rice. And like I said, guys, practice makes perfect. And here we go, guys, a nice little sun-dried tomato sushi roll. And it's just, you know, good to experiment with different flavors, I find. Now up next, another experiment, this time with this cheese, which is really, really nice. Now this is like a Greek style feta cheese, which is really, really flavorsome. Now as you can see here, I'm cutting the cheese really thin, but fortunately that one broke. Guess might have cut them a little bit too thin, but it doesn't really matter. The good thing about this cheese is that it is so rich in flavor that you don't need a lot, in my experience. I'm cutting it up into thin slithers, which I can then use in our sushi rolls just to add a bit of extra creamy flavor to these rolls. And again, don't judge me, guys. We just like to try and experiment with different things. You've got the nice sort of neutral balance of the vegetables, and I think this cheese will actually give it a slightly different taste, a kind of salty full flavor taste, which obviously you don't typically get in sushi. Now I didn't pack this one as well as I'd liked, but we can still get it rolled, and voila, job done. Now again it's time to cut it out. Actually this one came out really, really good, and yeah, just rinse and repeat, guys. Get it cut up, and then once you're ready, you can then put it on plate. You can store these in the refrigerator like I mentioned, and you can have them in your lunch boxes for the kids for school, or even if you're like us, just absolutely pig out on them because they're so tasty. One final little tip guys, if you got leftover nori sheets like I did, put them in a Ziploc bag and you can seal them away and put them in your cupboard, and then you can use them the next time you want to make some sushi. Now, how do they taste? As you can see here, we sat down to have these with some noodles and the girls absolutely loved them. I mean, we didn't eat all of this obviously, but they were so tasty. We put some in the fridge and we were able to have some more sushi throughout the next day or two. And like I said, so simple to make. I highly recommend giving this a go. And as you can see, all you need is a nice sharp knife and a roller and the bare minimum ingredients if you like. You can buy the sushi rice from the supermarket pre-cooked in packets if you want it a quick and easy way to have, but like I said, if you've got a lot of mouths to feed, it might be easier to cook it from scratch. Now, there you go guys, from start to finish, how we managed to make our very own sushi at home, and we hope that this can give you the inspiration you need to give it a go. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to this video if you found it helpful. If you got any questions, do let us know in the comments down below. As always, this is Ken Roy signing off for another video. Take care, goodbye and God bless.